Yo, what up? It's Raphael, NBA Draft Junkies, and I'm back again. I got part 2 with my guy, Derek Praschak from tailgatetake.com. Derek, what's going on?
What's going on, man? Happy to be here again.
All right. The first, your first one was, I don't want to use the word controversial, but it was a little different. There are some comments under the video where obviously people disagreed with your takes because you had Jalen Smith and Paul Reed ahead of the likes of James Wiseman, Onyeka Okongwu, and Obi Toppin. And there's some other guys that are projected a lot higher that you're lower on than others. One of the things I admire is that, you got the balls to come out and say it. How many times are guys, they have a list of their players that they like or they don't like. There's somebody that they're not high on, but they're afraid to go against the grain because of the backlash. And so,
100%.
Yeah, I think media and pressure sometimes influences even like guys like myself or yourself or guys that do big boards and mock drafts. And I definitely think there's that same type of pressure in, the NBA as a GM or the owner of a team. You may like a guy a lot, but you don't take him because you're worried about getting booed on draft day and just the backlash that comes with it. So at this point, nobody's really wrong because none of us know what the future holds. I'm sure there was somebody out there that thought, what, Kyle Lowry is really one of the 10 best players in this draft. And if you would have selected him at number 10, you might have looked foolish at the time, but looking back at it, he's definitely one of the best players that come out of that draft class. So, But, he doesn't pass the eye test. He didn't pass the eye test back then. And so he fell. We see it happen all the time. So at this point, like I said, nobody really knows what's going on. We're all kind of like the weathermen at this time. We can just predict and hope. And so I said all that to say this. I just appreciate the fact that you're not afraid to go against the grain. And even if I agree or disagree with some of your takes, you stand by it. Got to respect that.
Yeah, I definitely think some people see the mock drafts and they're afraid to have a guy move up or down the mock draft too much. When really, when you look at draft classes like years later, it can be all over the place. So you just got to kind of go with your gut a lot of the time.
Yeah, and there's a lot of guys that are in the lottery that and past drafts that didn't make it past 5 years, and it wasn't due to injury. I do this often. I go back and look at different draft classes and I say, wow, that guy was selected number 8 or that guy was selected number 7. It kind of goes into a debate with like Marvin Williams. Yes, he was the number 2 pick in the draft. He was ahead of Chris Paul and Darren Williams, but he had a long career. And, there was a lot of guys that in his class that had, I guess they were more popular at a certain time, but he was just steady all the way through. And so, there's a lot of guys that, and I think in this draft, I think there's going to be quite a few guys that are going to go in the top 10 that are going to fizzle out because, they're so young. You're 19, 18 years old, and you're just projecting how you think a player would be, but there's no way to determine how a 19-year-old is going to react when they have $10 million guaranteed in the bank if they're going to want to work out every day and get better. So I think people forget that. Like, these are kids. Like,
the real thing.
Yeah, not a lot. Of course, people can say, well, when I was 19, I was mature. But, yeah, man, a lot of 19-year-olds, you get $10 million in the bank guaranteed.
Wouldn't have been smart to give me $10 million when I was 19. Wouldn't have been smart.
Right. The average college student can't handle the credit card that they get when they, apply for a free T-shirt, but yet they can handle. But anyway, I digress on that. So let's get right into it. All right. So you ended at 14 with Aaron Nesmith. So number 15 on your big board.
So at 15, I hope I'm saying this right, Precious Achiuwa.
Precious Achiuwa. I'm a Precious guy. I like Precious a lot. I've mentioned it in previous episodes. I'm higher on Precious than most. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Well, a lot of what I like for him is kind of like what I like for Paul Reed. I think I value guys who are the five who can guard all positions and can stay out on the floor because they're athletic and they can defend. And I think he brings that in spades. I think he can defend all five positions. He's fast. He's got a high motor. That's really crucial, especially on defense. And yeah, I think he can be a really good switchable five in this league. There's going to have to be development in his playmaking and his jump shooting. But what he already has, similar to Paul Reed, is so good that I think he can just get on the floor early, get minutes early just by playing good D, being a big who can switch, who's not going to be stuck on guards or skilled or fast wing guys. He can represent himself okay on the perimeter too. I think just he's the exact kind of five you want in the modern era. I really like him. For me, like him and Paul Reed, I go back and forth on sometimes who I like more defensively, but they're both like, for me, the stereotypical, like what you really want in a five these days.
Yeah, like I said, I like Precious a lot. I do think that he has high potential, like a high ceiling, but I also think that he has high bust potential also, because there
Absolutely.
are times where he didn't do it as much this year as I thought he would. But there are times where he would prefer to play like a three.
Yeah.
And I think his best NBA position as a five. If you watch him back when he was in high school, he did a lot of ball handling, and he was able to, showcase some skill, which I definitely think he's skilled. It's just a matter of putting it all together and carving out a role. I think like best case scenario for him is he's a switchable defender that rebounds, that plays with a lot of energy, but also is a capable three-point shooter that can attack closeouts and then make passes. Like he shows some flashes of being able to, make plays for others, but right now his decision making has a ways to go. He just really struggles with decision making and turnovers. His turnovers significantly outnumbered his assists. He's a little wild and out of control at times. He gets a lot of shots blocked at the rim. And yeah, I mean, his free throw shooting needs to improve a lot, but I think and believe that with the right development team, that he can definitely end up being like a very high level starter on a championship team, because there's so many boxes that he can't fill. But I think there's just a big divide on Precious. I mean, I've seen some people have him lottery. I've seen some people have him late first round. Some people just don't like him at all. And I understand like both sides of the coin.
I mean, he averaged 11 rebounds a game. I mean, he's going to get you boards. He's high motor guy. It's like one of those things, like I agree. He needs a lot of development. So like the floor might be kind of low, but yeah, you hope to see him go somewhere that can really develop his shot and everything, because like he has everything that you need that can't be developed, like the effort, just the rebounding, the defense, like he has all that.
Right. And I heard a little rumor from a birdie. I won't give up my source or even name who he's working with, but he's working with I didn't even really know this guy was in the training, but he's working with an absolute legend in New York, if my sources are true. And yeah, I mean, I've heard some really good things. Hopefully I can use my connection to allow me to be able to get some footage or get some content or get some inside information on that. But I just got this information a couple of days ago, so keeping my fingers crossed.
There you go.
All right, number 16, Tyler Bey. What do you like about Tyler Bey?
I like a lot about Tyler Bey. He could work on his playmaking and his shot creation a little bit. I don't know if he'll ever be a great shot creator, but he's high tempo. He's an excellent defender. He can shoot the three. I think he projects as a good three-point shooter in the NBA, and rebounding. What is it? Where's the stat? I don't think, because I don't have his rebounding stat on me, but he's a good rebounder. His 75% free throw percentage makes me think he'll be a good shooter in the NBA. He's a little on the older side. I don't know. It's tough. I don't want to overreact to age. I don't want to ignore it either, but I think he's going to be 23 soon. But he's just such a good athlete. He can run the floor. He's got the length, so he's going to get rebounds. He's going to defend. And if that three-point shooting or just perimeter shooting does improve and become pretty effective, he can be on the floor in high minutes because his skill set, a 3-and-D wing, a big one, that's something that there's not enough of.
Yeah, and I think he's more so of a 4 because he doesn't really space the floor like that. I think that he's a poor man Sean Marion. I've said it over and over and over. Every episode I've said Tyler Bay reminds me of a poor man Sean Marion. There's only one Sean Marion, but if he can be half as good as Sean Marion, just 50% of the production, then you ended up with a pretty high quality player who's going to have a 8 to 10 year career as a rotation player, which we kind of put him at about 32, 33 years old. And so, yeah, I think that's a good, I think that's just a good solid pick at 16 or as far as like on your board, on your ranking.
Do you see him maybe being a Trevor Ariza at all?
I don't know because, Ariza didn't come into the league as a good shooter also. But he's developed into a, pretty good shooter. And Ariza's played a long time. Like, if I'm not mistaken, he's in LeBron's draft class. If not LeBron's class, it's the year after that.
It's one of those. He was in the league with the Lakers when they were playing the Celtics in the finals, and he wasn't like his first, second season. So,
he started off in New York. I think he was in Orlando also. He has to be at least in year 15 or 16. And he still has a few more years left in the tank. So, if he can have an Ariza-type career, that would be great. But I think Bay is more so of a 4 because he's so active. Like, he's a cutter. He's a vertical lob threat. He, I think he's a switchy defender that can defend multiple positions, maybe 1 through 4 in a pinch. And I just think he's that guy that, like I said, you don't have to run any plays for. He's just going to get you opportunities off his activity alone. I think Ariza was more so of a slasher, spot-up shooter. I don't really remember Ariza doing much with the ball in his hands. Well, I don't think Bay is going to put the ball on the floor a lot either. But I just kind of see like that, like I said, that high-energy guy that you don't have to run any plays for. He'll just get you points off his activity. All right, now here we go. This is a big one. Number 17, this is the lowest I've seen this player, but you have Obi Toppin at number 17. The floor is yours. I need you to explain to the listeners why you have Obi Toppin so low.
All right. Well, so I do obviously see the positives. He's a freak athlete. I mean, there's a lot to like. I'm not that down on him. I just wonder about the red flags. So he's a little bit on the older side, obviously. I worry about his defense. I don't love his ability to stay with guys. He's kind of like a high hip guy. I feel like guards can blow by him a little bit. I just wonder if his defense will ever get good enough to stay on the floor. I mean, right now I see him as a high energy, explosive, maybe a little bit of a stretchy 4, but I don't necessarily see him being a good enough defender on other 5s and then to some wings and guards where he can stay on the floor long. I kind of see him as a guy who can be effective, but in limited minutes and in a role. I don't know if I see what everyone else sees with, like, I don't even know what position to have him play. I've seen a lot of people call him Amari Stoudemire, but I don't love his ability to switch, so he struggles to stay on the floor. I think he has a role in the league, obviously, and a good one, but I don't know. I have the red flags, just like they're kind of big for me. Like he's not very long either, just not a great defender, not very long, kind of old. I don't know, those red flags for me, just there's a lot of them.
So if you had to rate him just based off of offense alone, where would you put him as a prospect in this draft, just based off of offense?
So based on offense, now maybe not exactly in play style, but I wrote that he can be like a bigger, more explosive Kyle Kuzma, because I think he can get you buckets. I think you can give him the ball and he can get you buckets with the ball. But I don't know if he's someone you want to rely on doing that at a high volume. I think he'll be a good shooter. I don't know if he'll be a great 3-point shooter. He was in this past season in college. What is it? 43% on 2.5 attempts. I don't know if I think he'll be a knockdown shooter. So I think he'll just be like a good scorer, who can kind of play the four, maybe play small ball five. But I don't see him as someone you want to have anchoring your offense or defense, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I mean, I'm higher on Toppin than you, obviously, like most people.
Most people are,
I
yeah.
think that there are going to be issues on the defensive end of the floor. I definitely think that you're going to have to try to hide him, or um, maybe try to build a scheme around hiding him for the most part. But I think offensively, he is arguably the most complete offensive player in this draft, most NBA ready on the offensive end. I think he's going to be first team all rookie or win rookie of the year, just because he's likely to go to a bad team. And even though that he may be a negative on the defensive end, he's going to get the minutes, because if you take him number, I don't know, 7, 8, 6, then you're going to play him 30-something minutes a game. And I think if you play him 30 minutes a game, he's going to give you buckets, because he's that good on the offensive end, in my opinion. But I think where it gets tricky for Toppin is if you're a playoff team, and let's say he's one of your top 2 or 3 options, and you make it to the playoffs. That's where I think it gets tricky, because in the playoffs, teams are going to hunt him out on the defensive end, and that's where he really, really could hurt his team. But right now, whatever team he goes to, it's unlikely that they're going to be a playoff team early in his career. And so I think that he may sell a little tickets. He may get you a few wins here and there, and he's going to put up good numbers on the offensive end. But I think his defense is not really going to be a major, major factor until he has to play in the playoffs, and then that's where it can get a little tricky for him at. All right, number 18. So this is a high riser. This is the highest I've seen this prospect on the draft. So why do you have Xavier Tillman at number 18?
All right, well, this kind of goes back to, I think I like a type. I just like guys who can be fives, and maybe, you might think they're a little undersized or whatever, but I like guys who are athletic and can switch. And like you said, with Obi Toppin, where what he can do in the regular season, but then when you get to the playoffs, can he be hunted down? Can you keep him on the floor for a while? I think about in the playoffs, what guys can do and can they stay on the floor? And I see Tillman as a guy who is a very switchable, athletic 5 in the league, and I think that's huge. I mean, he averaged 13 boards per 40 minutes. He's a high energy, high rebound guy, and I think that's something you need from the 5. I value sort of the athleticism, quickness, switchability more than I value maybe skill, shooting, playmaking, and I think he just brings you exactly what you want in a 5. Now, I don't 100% know if he'll be a huge offensive scorer, creating his own shot at all. He's not a good shooter, but it's what he can do. I just think it's something you want at the 5 spot, and it's hard to find those guys, because a lot of centers you end up seeing they can't stay in the game, and you have just one of your wing guys or more athletic forwards playing the 5. But then it kind of you don't want to have a center who you're paying a lot of money for, who you can't keep on the floor. He's the kind of guy who would be good to have in your team. You just throw him at the 5, and he can guard most guys on the floor, and he can definitely hold his own against other bigs. So I think it's something that's very valuable, and we need more of in the league.
And I see the opposite end of it, because if he's not going to give you a lot of offense, it basically nullifies what he does on defense. Because, like I said, in the playoffs, if a guy's a bad defender, then you can run him off the floor, you can attack him. But if a guy is not providing anything on offense, and I'm saying that he's not going to provide anything on offense, but if a guy is not really a threat to do much on the offensive end, then now it kills your offense, because, whoever is defending him is now playing free safety, and it just kind of makes it tough for your guards to drive. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just kind of goes into what you value more, and it seems like you lean towards defense a lot more than offense.
A little bit.
All right, so here's another one that is a shocker for me. At number 19, you have Cassius Stanley. What makes you so high on Cassius Stanley, considering that he's off the top of my head, he's like 21.
Yeah, he's like exactly 21. I think his birthday was in September.
So he's
So yeah,
21 and he just
he's
finished
older.
his freshman season. He's old as
Yeah.
hell. When I was
Yeah.
21, I was like, I don't know, I was 18 when I started my freshman year of college. So when I was 21, I was like a junior.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really make much sense to see freshman 21. And that is
No.
like a lot of times a red flag for me too. I love his upside. Is really like a lot of these picks, it's tough because some are more upside, some I don't really see as huge upside, but I like what their floor is. I see him as an upside guy mainly because of his athleticism. I think he's going to be a really good shooter in the league. What is it? 73% free throw shooter, so not bad. I like his form. Um, I like the fact that he plays off the ball well, because obviously it's not a bad thing to be a high usage guy, a guy with the ball a lot, but it's valuable, like you said, with I think Tyler Bay. Just like he can score and do things without having to have the ball and drawing up a play for him. I see him as an athletic 3-and-D off-ball guard. He's going to be excellent in transition. His three-point shooting is going to be what can determine how well he gets to me. I mean, if he can become, I don't know if he will, but if he can become a knockdown three-point shooter, that's huge because then he has a spot in the league for a long time. If he's like a decent three-point shooter, then he may struggle to get big minutes and this might look bad. But I think the upside with his athleticism and his defense, and I think his potential shooting, I think it all equals a good off-ball two guard in the league who can get big minutes if he hits the ceiling.
All right. So my question is a combination of this pick and the guy that you have next. So why do you have Cassius Stanley ahead of an RJ Hampton?
Well, RJ Hampton, I was higher on him originally.
Mm-hmm.
I just like he's obviously like in the pick and roll, his scoring ability, he's a natural. I mean, he's a guy who can come in the league today and he can get you some buckets. I don't know what the ceiling is in RJ Hampton. I kind of see him as like a combo guard. I kind of see him as a guy I want with the ball in his hands. But I also don't know if he's going to be good enough where you want him with the ball in his hands a lot. You know what I mean? I just wonder at his best, what he is. Like I kind of see him as like a Jordan Clarkson type. Like he can be very productive, and that's like I think like a ceiling type thing. But can he be productive enough where he gets the minutes and gets the chances with the ball? Will his defense be good enough to stay on the floor for a while? Just I'm a little bit unsure of it. It's obviously we didn't get to see him the way we got to see some college kids. So that's obviously like to me it doesn't help. But I don't know. I'm not sure if what his best is good enough to really pick high in the draft. Where I think Cassius Stanley, I don't know if we'll get there, but I think his best can be someone who gets valuable minutes and maybe starting minutes.
And so I differ because if you look at it, RJ is maybe like a year and a half younger, maybe close to 2. They're about the same size. RJ I haven't seen Cassius Stanley, but I've seen RJ recently, and he's built like a wing. I think he has a lot more skills than Cassius Stanley because RJ is a better passer. He has more guard skills. He's if you see him as a 2, then I think that then you could have 2 guards on the floor that you can run pick and rolls for. So if he's
that's true.
You know, you put him on the floor next to a point guard that can shoot, then RJ can, you can run pick and rolls. And I mean, his athleticism, he may not be as explosive vertically as Cassius Stanley, but I think he's one of the top 5 to 10 athletes in this draft class as far as just athleticism. I just think like overall, he just has more skills and talent that he can bring to the table than Cassius Stanley. I think with Stanley, I think for him, his best case scenario would be like an Ariza type, which is good. Like if he can play 15, 16 years and, uses athleticism, and then if he can develop into a switchy defender that knocks down open shots, and I think that's good for him. But the thing that didn't have me as high on Stanley as others is because he was age-wise, he was as old as a lot of juniors. And you would think that he would have been a better defender. I think he was a solid defender, but you would think that he would have been a much better defender because he's older. His body's a little bit more developed.
Good point.
And if his role in the NBA is to be a 3-and-D defender, which I think it is, I would have liked to see a lot more defense out of him, considering that he's older than, some of the guys in the same draft class. I'm not saying that, because he's 21, his potential isn't there. I still think it's there, but in my opinion, I just think RJ Hampton has a higher ceiling than Cassius Stanley. But I also feel like, based off of your list, a lot of people ask me what's the difference between Josh Green and Cassius Stanley. And you're high on Josh Green. I think you had him 11, I believe.
11.
And so I feel like there is not a whole lot of difference between the two, other than I think Josh Green has a higher upside. He's obviously a little younger. And I think that he's a better defender. And at the minimum, he has a much, much better motor than – his motor is one of the best in this draft.
Yeah.
His motor is to the point where I had mentioned it before that you kind of worry about him because he plays so hard that he puts himself in position where he can get hurt because he's on the floor and, he's just so competitive.
He's a dog.
Yep. All right. So, I guess, did you have anything else to add about RJ Hampton? I know you have him at number 20. I was going
to say, I'm curious what you like his ceiling. What do you see for Hampton? What do you see him being? I'm just curious because I'm kind of back and forth.
So I guess I have a little bit more insight because I've been able to watch him this summer, and I think the one big knock on him was his shooting. And I just posted it today. I don't know if you got a chance to look, but I did a video where I went to a workout, and it was actually a couple of weeks ago, but I just posted it today. I went to a workout to watch his shooting to see if he's improved, and he's definitely made great strides as a shooter. He changed his form. He used to shoot with his elbow out. Now he shoots, a pretty good shot. It's a flick of the wrist. It's kind of coming off effortlessly off his hand. And he's big. Like, if you see him, he looks like a wing. Like, if you match him up with some of the other guys in this draft that are projected to be wings, that are, some are even saying like may be able to play a little bit of 4 in small lineups, he's the same size. I think that if you put him next to Tyler Bay, they'd be the same size, give or take an inch or so. But with him, he has guard skills. And he can put the ball on the floor, obviously. He can run pick and rolls. He's good at, like, the skip pass as far as getting in the defense. And, I just think that the shooting was the big issue, and he's improved as a shooter a lot. Of course, it's an empty gym, so you don't know how it translates to games. But I saw him – when did I see him? I want to say maybe it was March or May. I don't know. It was early, but I watched him work out. And then seeing the changes that he's made from then and now as a shooter, it's crazy. And then, like, I see him from time to time at gyms working out. He's improved his body. And I just think that he has a really, really high upside. And but here's something that, think about it like this. A lot of people didn't think Russell Westbrook was a point guard. Some people still don't think he's a point guard.
Yeah.
RJ has guard skills. He can handle the ball, and he can, he shows that he's a guard. He's a legitimate guard. He's not a wing. He's a guard. And if you put him in a pick and roll with space, he gets into – he may not even need a pick because his first step is that good. What if he develops into, like, a Westbrook type?
That would be crazy.
Yeah, he has the size. He's bigger than Westbrook as far as size. He does have the guard skills. And Westbrook, coming out of college, didn't play the point. If I'm not mistaken, Darren Collison was their point guard.
No, he was the 2 at UCLA, I think.
Yeah. And so I've seen some people make some comparisons saying that, you could – the right system, and maybe you could develop RJ into, like, this hyper athletic big point guard. And I don't know. I mean, if I'm a team, I'm taking a shot on that because
Yeah.
it's hard to find guards at his size that can possibly be combo guards. Most guys at 6'6". I mean, of course, there's there's LaMelo, who's also a big guard at his size, but most guys at 6'6", they're wings.
Right.
And so I think
No,
that I think in the beginning stages of his career, he'll be a combo, like you say, even if he's a Jordan Clarkson type. But I think I would try my luck at trying to develop him into a point guard. And then if you can do that, then it just unlocks some other things. So, all right, let's go down to 21. And this is, and I'm just going to have to be flat out honest with you. I totally disagree with this one. So I'm going to let you go ahead and explain why you're so low on Deni Avdija, who I think could go number 2 in this draft.
No, he could. Well, to clarify, I'm not too low on him. It's kind of one of those things again where I wonder what his best is, because I think he can come to the league and he's going to be a solid wing distributor. I think he has shooting potential. I just wonder at his best, what does he become? Like right now, he kind of, when I watch him, he's young. He's not even 19 yet. I don't think so. So it's hard to say when you watch him now what you see, but I don't necessarily. I kind of see a Mario Hezonja. I see like a wing who has skill. I mean, he's a great distributor. I'm not saying that he's just like Mario Hezonja, but I wonder if once he gets into the league, what's he gonna be? That's kind of it's kind of my question with a lot of guys who drop. I just wonder, they may have a lot of ability, but what's their archetype? Like when he gets in the league, is he a 1 because he's such a good distributor and playmaker? Does his shooting get to the point where he can become a 2 guard? His free throw percentage was pretty low. So was his 3-point percentage. It also wasn't a small sample size, so I'm not too worried about it. I just wonder like what he is. I could see him being anywhere between a 1 and a 3, and I wonder if he's good enough at anything to be any more than a role player. But I don't discount that he has unbelievable playmaking ability and vision. His natural feel for the game is outstanding. So I don't deny that. I just wonder what it will get you at its best.
I think he's a weapon. I think that, you can play him at the 4, and if you put him at the 4, he rebounds. That's one thing he does. He does go after rebounds, and he's the guy that once he gets the rebound, he can make plays for others. I don't have any issues with the shooting. I think that I saw a stat somewhere that if you looked at his shooting and you looked at the percentage, a lot of his 3-point shots were at the end of the shot clock. Okay. So he was getting bombs. But I liked him a lot. I mean, I saw how he played in the playoffs this year, and then he played in the Euro League when he got an opportunity to play. I thought he played okay. The free throw shooting is a concern. But just watching his film from the under-20s last year, I feel like they really showcased like what he can do as a guy that, he was a good shot blocker. He was blocking shots. He's a smart defender. I think that he's so versatile that there's so many things that he can do. I think like if he went to a team like Cleveland, he could help them out tremendously because he'd give them another ball handler, another decision maker. I'm just high on Avdija. The Hezonja comparison is kind of funny to me because I'm a Blazers fan, and I think Mario has it all. I just can't figure out why he can't put it together.
That's what I'm saying. I think there's a lot of guys in the league who they're really good at a lot of things, but I kind of wonder, do you need to be like great at something to last, or you know what I mean? It's again, and I wrote that he's a really good help team defender, like you said, and that's like crucial because that just shows he understands defense. He knows he has awareness out there. So it's not like this isn't a guy. He's a basketball player. It's just he can definitely come in the league and he's going to play. For me, again, it's just how well and how many minutes can he get.
Yeah, I saw that Golden State is interested in him, possibly at number 2. I think he would be good for their system. I do think he's a much better shooter than the numbers show. Yeah. But he also takes a lot of like I said, a lot of the shots that he caught on catch and shoot were at the end of the shot clock. But then he does take a bunch of, like when he played in the under 20s, when he had the ball in his hand, he had freedom. He took a lot of Luka Doncic type shots, contested, step back, threes. But what I like about him is that he can shoot threes off the dribble, off the bounce. And so if you got a 4-man that can do that, and if you have to respect it, then it opens up for him as a driver. Then I like him as an off the ball cutter. So I think that, if he goes to like a Golden State team, the way they move the ball and the way they cut, I think he'll be able to make an impact there. But yeah, I like I said, I'm high on Deni. I do know that during the last video, well, not during the video, but after I posted it, there were some comments about no mention of Avdija, and I think that led to like 16 different comments. But again, that's why it goes back to how I just kind of respect how, if you have an opinion, you're not afraid to express it, and you'll live on that hill.
Yeah, no, I'll die on the hill.
All right. Number 22, Kira Lewis. He's a guy that, his range is all over the place. I've seen 22, I've seen 8, I've seen anywhere in between. So what are your thoughts on Lewis?
I like him a lot. I would like him more if he was maybe a little bigger, not in height, just more bulk. I think it kind of prevents his defense from expanding past like guards, and I think it kind of prevents him from getting into the paint and finishing around the rim. But everything else is pretty good. I think he's a combo guard playmaker. I think he's more of a 1, but I don't know if he's necessarily a point guard in the sense that that's all he is. I think you can put him at the 1 or 2. He's going to go out there. He'll guard guards well for you. I saw a stat here. I wrote it down. 43.5% on spot-up shots. So he's going to be a guy. He can shoot. He can stretch the floor a little bit. And I think he'll be a solid combo. And for him to get more minutes, maybe be a starter, maybe to really hit a ceiling, I think he'll either have to bulk up a bit. I mean, he's 19 and a half. So we'll see if he can do that, but I don't know.
So think about that. He's 19 and a half. He just finished his sophomore year. He's still like a year and a half younger than Cassius Stanley.
That's true. No, you make a point. I mean, it makes sense. He's got a couple years ahead of some guys. You wonder.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Stanley, going back to him, it's like, was he that much better in high school because he was that much older?
Yeah.
So I was concerned. But I like Lewis. I think the one thing that he has that you can't teach, and that's so valuable in today's NBA, is speed. He has the speed to put tremendous pressure on the defense. And, I mean, I think if you give him, like, floor spacing, you put him on a team where they got some shooters around him, and he gets a screen, he's already in the paint, and it's going to, defense is going to have to rotate over. And then if he can finish or he can make a pass to the corners, then they make another pass. I think his speed alone will just create so many open opportunities for either himself or for his teammates. And, you look at a guy like Ish Smith has been able to stick around in the league for so long just because his speed just puts so much pressure on defenses. And I think Kira Lewis could have a De'Aaron Fox type impact. I mean, just because of his speed, and I think he's a pretty good shooter. He may not be the playmaker that Fox is, but I think that if you can get 80% of De'Aaron Fox, then that's a good pickup.
Pretty good.
Yep. All right, let's go down to 23. Another guy, Dallas guy. I've had a chance to watch live. His stock or his where he's at on different boards is all over the place also. I mean, at one point he was projected top 10, and then I think that he's kind of slipped a little bit. So what do you like about Tyrese Maxey, and why do you think that he's fallen down to 23 on your list?
Well, again, kind of like Kira Lewis. I think he's a better defender, but that's the main thing I like. I like his defense. He's a little bit bigger than Kira Lewis Jr. He's got a better frame, bigger frame. I don't know why he's dropped. The thing that worries me when I watch is I kind of feel like he plays a little out of control. a little wild, and it's not crazy, but I think he could be a little smoother. I think that's just the thing that concerns me. I know, like as an on-ball guy, I wonder if he's going to be able to create many shots for himself. Um, so it's tough. I mean, when you have a guard, a lot of times you really would like the guard to be able to be a plus offensively, and I wonder if he will. But his defense, his energy, and everything, I think it's fantastic. I think he's going to be a standing guard defender. And we'll see. I mean, if he can become a better three-point shooter, he shot 29%, and his free throw shooting was better. It was 83%. So it doesn't concern me too much. But yeah, so it's the defense, it's the energy. I just wonder what he'll be able to do with the ball in his hands on offense.
Yeah, I think he's a much better shooter than his numbers indicated. The one concern I have is he has a low release. I wonder if that.
No, I wrote that down.
Yeah, I wonder if that had an impact on his shot. Yeah, defense. I mean, he's definitely a defender. I still kind of debate if Kentucky was the right choice for him. Not saying that the experience wasn't awesome. I'm sure he had just a crazy good experience there in Lexington. But as far as just they had too many guys that needed the ball, and did he really get a chance to showcase everything that he can do? I wouldn't be shocked if he's one of these Kentucky guys that has a better NBA career than we saw at school. I mean, Tyler Hero. I didn't think that. And I thought he was drafted right where he should have been, but he's a much better player than where he was drafted. SGA. I mean, you can go on Booker, Cat about guys that went to Kentucky. What's that?
Eric Bledsoe to some degree.
Yeah, exactly. Guys that went to Kentucky and they just didn't get a chance to really showcase their full skill set. I mean, Bam. I did not know Bam had all of this in him.
No one did.
I didn't know. I had him as a role guy. I thought, oh, yeah, he's an undersized, big that likes to just dunk everything around the basket. Yeah. Didn't know he was a playmaker. So now it just kind of makes it tough to evaluate Kentucky guys. We've seen too many examples of players that we did not really get a chance to see everything that they were capable of while they were in Kentucky, which I think in some cases is good because those players can sacrifice for the good of the team. And that they are able to fill a role. But then it's like, they could also be stars too, high-level players. Like, I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of tough, like I said. I mean, PJ Washington.
Guys are hard to evaluate.
Yeah, PJ Washington is another guy that he's you can say that he didn't really get a chance to showcase everything that he had at Kentucky. I think it's kind of similar. I think his progression is about where you expected it to be, but like I said, there's some that can say that he didn't really get a chance to show his passing skills at Kentucky. All right, moving down to 24. Speaking of schools where it's hard to evaluate guys based off the system, you got Elijah Hughes from Syracuse. And I had made a comment on another, I don't know if it was yours. I've done so many of these about Syracuse guys. And who's the last Syracuse player that has produced since Carmelo? I mean, I guess you can say Deion Waiters, but you look at, Wesley Johnson. You look at, I guess Michael Carter-Williams is going to end up having a pretty long career. But Syracuse guys are hard to predict, like what type of NBA player they'll be. But you're high on Elijah Hughes also. And what do you like about Hughes?
All right, well, full disclosure, I'm a Syracuse basketball fan, so that's the first thing I like about him. But, it is hard to evaluate him. I saw that he had, I think, like 2 defensive possessions of real man defense. It's hard to project what he'll be doing on defense in the league. He's got a solid wingspan. It's 6'8" wingspan. He's 6'6", and he's 215, so he has a solid frame. I mean, I got to imagine he'll be a solid defender in the league. What I really like about him a lot is and it's obvious based on the numbers, but his 3-point shooting. Now it's 34% for this past season. It was on 7 attempts. He was also on, he was the offense. His free throw shooting at 81%, that makes me think that it's just he does have that good shooting touch. It's legitimate and that it should carry over to the next level. I really think he's going to be a sharpshooter. I don't know what his ceiling is, and that's kind of why I don't have him high in the draft, maybe, because I think a lot of what he does well, he can do very well and fast. I think he'll just be a good shooting two guard in the league, and he can play make a little bit. Yeah, just it's more about his ceiling, but there's not too much about his game. It's just he's older, obviously. He's almost 23, I think, now. But I also don't want to ignore what I see as just like clear cut positives. I just think like he's gonna be a good shooter, and I think he has a spot in the league. It's a matter of how big a spot in the league.
Yeah, his game reminds me of the players that the NBA fell in love with in the late 90s and 2000s. Everybody wanted the big 6'6" guard because everybody was trying to find like this poor
MJ.
man's Michael Jordan type, and he fits that bill. Where I think in today's NBA it kind of hurts him in a sense because I see him more as a scorer than specialist.
Right.
You know, like he can obviously shoot the three, but I think he's a scorer, and so I wonder like, there's another guy from Syracuse. I can't think of his name that played the same way. He's probably maybe like 10 years ago.
Guard or a wing or
A wing. Oh man, I remember him in the G League. I want to say he played for Sioux Falls.
not Chris Joseph. He was a 4.
He is in around that era. It escapes me.
Too.
But he was able to put the ball in the basket. I just don't know if he didn't have a necessarily an NBA role.
Right.
Was it Chris Joseph?
I don't know. I think of guys. There's been so many Syracuse guys who got drafted and were really good college players, and they all just kind of fizzled out. So it's
Tyler Lydon. I don't even know where he's at right now, and I usually know where guys are at the first few years outside the NBA. But yeah, I think he's more of a guy that's a bucket getter. I wonder for him, is he going to be one of these players that he gets drafted in the second round or whatever, he goes to the G League, he averages like 25 points a game in the G League, but it doesn't really prepare him for the role that he would play in the NBA. Because I think if he goes in the G League, he's going to be, more minutes, faster pace. I think he's going to be one of the best scorers there. But then there's, plenty of examples of guys going to the G League and they put up big numbers. Like, I guess an example, he's had a decent NBA career, but Jordan McRae is more so of a scorer than a guy that fills a role on an NBA team. I mean, he's had I think he had like a 60-point game in the G League or 50, something like that. He did put up some good numbers when he played for Washington this year before he got hurt, but he's a guy that he'll probably get buckets on a bad team.
Yeah.
As opposed to being able to fill a role on a good team, and play rotation minutes on a good team. And I think Elijah Hughes has some similarities.
That makes sense. I think like if everything pans out for him, he's like what Gary Trent Jr. is right now.
I think Trent is a specialist.
Yeah, you don't think Elijah Hughes can turn into a 3-point specialist guard wing type who can defend a little bit if it turns out he can defend?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he can. It's just usually hard for guys that are as skilled as he is on the offensive end to scale back and settle for that role.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so I think it's not the issue of talent or not. It's just a matter of, does he feel like he's able to maximize his skill set if you just put him in the corner and tell him, stand here and wait and knock down shots? I think that's what's weird about today's NBA is that, there are guys that are playing overseas that are a lot better than guys from the NBA. As far as you tell them, roll the ball out, play one-on-one, get buckets. But right now in the NBA, it's just such an emphasis on guys that are complementary players to the stars. And I think the difference between Trent and Hughes is that Trent has always been, you knew that he was going to project to be a shooter.
Right.
And now it just seems like it's better to be a shooter than a scorer, which is weird.
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
All right, let's go down to 25. Devon Dotson. When I think of Devon Dotson, I think of speed.
Yeah.
So what do you like about him other than his speed?
Well, I honestly like a lot. I think he's just one of those guys he's a basketball player. He's not the youngest. Um, he shot 30% from three, but his 83% from 3-point line again tells me that his shooting touch is probably pretty good and should translate. He got the line almost 6 times, so like I love that. That's huge, and he can get to the line. It's not something. I mean, that's something that he should be able to do at the next level, despite being a little smaller. Um, 4 rebounds a game, uh, 2 steals a game. I think he's going to be an active defender who gets you boards too for a point guard. I see him as a combo guard, point guard type. I just really like him. I like his speed, his ability to get to the paint. I think he'll be a good shooter. Yeah, it's all that. I think he probably doesn't have the best vision. He's probably for like a point guard. He's probably not the guy who's going to go out there and like run an offense, but he's a combo guard who can handle the ball. And I think he's just going to get you points. And I feel like there's a few point guards in this draft that all kind of like fit that mold somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like the fact that he gets to the line so much. That's kind of the differentiator for me.
Yeah, he worked out in Dallas. I know I saw him once this summer, and he was in a workout with Jemias Ramsey, and yeah, I like him. I think that his speed is going to be able to help him stick. He kind of reminds me of Ramon Sessions in a sense with his speed. I think Sessions was a much better passer early in his career. But the thing about Ramon is that once he got paid, man, he stopped passing. When he came off the bench, he caught a screen, he got a screen, and he was a great finisher at the rim. But yeah, he stopped passing. I remember he used to get like 8 assists a game, or if somebody got hurt and he filled in for him, he put up big assist numbers. He wasn't much of a shooter, but he was just so fast. And he, like I said, when he got in the game, caught a screen, got to the paint, got his quick buckets in limited time, and he didn't hurt the team, but he wasn't a negative either. He just understood his role as a backup point guard, and he considered himself like a backup point guard that can score. And I think Dotson could have a similar role like Sessions and Ish Smith as far as just backup point guard. When he comes in, he manages the game, and his speed just kind of creates opportunities for others. All right, moving down to 26, Robert Woodard. I like Woodard. I think that he's, I have him going in the high 30s, but I think that he is a guy that fits today's NBA. I mean, he's going to be able to defend multiple positions. He's strong enough to defend stronger wings, like a Harden, or at least not. I mean, nobody can really defend Harden, but, just kind of make life a little bit tougher for him as far as absorbing the contact and not being able to fly off when he, initiates the contact. And then he's a complimentary guy. He shoots threes. And I like Woodard a lot. I think that he would be a good pick for a team that is looking for some wing depth. So what are your thoughts on Woodard?
Yeah, I really like, you said it, the switchability. I always go back to that. It's one of the things I value like very highly, maybe too high, but I love that. He's just great effort, good rebounder. He's not going to be a guy who's out there making a ton of plays for anyone else. Um, I don't know exactly what it is, but his free throw shooting I don't think is the best, and that's kind of always a concern. But he's 40, 42, 43% from three. Yeah, I just think he's going to be a 4-3 hybrid type who is just like, he's a role guy, but he's a valuable one, a switchable defender, a rebounder. And I think a lot of what will determine how good he can get is how good a 3-point shooter he'll be, because he already has the defense and the switchability too. So on the defensive end, you're not really worried about him. He gets you boards. So really it's just like, can he hit open shots? If he can do that, he can be really good. If he can't, he might struggle a bit. But either way, I think defensively, and just energy and rebounding and everything, he's just someone you want on the floor.
Okay. Yeah, I think that, man, there's so many teams that could use guys like that. I mean, the league is. I mean, there's a shortage of wings that can defend and knock down shots. And then I think he can play some four, even though he'd be undersized. But I think, shoot, the way the NBA is going, he can steal some minutes at the four. If Jay
Yeah.
Crowder
Oh,
is starting at the
absolutely.
four.
Oh, yeah.
All right, 27. This guy, I mean, I have him around the same range, and he's a specialist, Desmond Bane.
Yeah. I like him a lot. I love watching him play. I wanted to make him higher. I couldn't logically do it. He's a little older. He doesn't have great length, but his 3-point numbers are just amazing. In all 4 seasons, he went up in how many threes he took per game, and it was 38% to 46 to 43 to 44. So he's been a consistent knockdown 3-point shooter. And he gets 6 rebounds a game, 4 assists. He has 26% assist percentage. It's just kind of like he can kind of do everything on offense in a way. And not everything, but he's versatile on offense. He can shoot. He's not a ball stopper. He'll get you the boards too. I compared him to like Eric Gordon because Eric Gordon, he's a shooting guard. He's bulky. He's big, and he's just like, I'm gonna shoot threes every time I get any room. And if Bane can be the 3-point shooter he was in college, and he can bring that to the pros, and if he can be like a solid defender, yeah, he's a role guy. He's a bench 2, maybe 3, who hits open threes, and we'll see, maybe can guard.
Yep, I think the difference between him and Eric Gordon is Eric Gordon has a very good first step. He's a straight line driver, but man, he can definitely put the ball on the rack on straight line
Especially
drives.
back in the day.
Yeah, he still does it now. I mean, who was it? It was a game this series. I mean, it was the first game. They were running plays when Kuzma was guarding him. I think game 1, and he was attacking. I think that's the difference. But even if Gordon loses his first step, he's still going to be a threat as a 3-point shooter. I think Bane is going to be unfair that he's going to end up falling to one of these good teams.
Yeah.
At 27, he could end up in Milwaukee. He could end up with the Lakers. He could end up in Toronto. Just that range, 27, 26, 25, in that range, he's going to go to a good team, which he's going to go to a team that already has a star, and he's going to be that complementary outside threat that creates gravity. And so I just think that he's in a good situation.
He'll be good next season.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's in a good situation. It would be scary to see him go to the Lakers. I mean, as dominant as they're looking right now, they don't really have. I mean, I guess Danny Green and KCP are their shooters, which they're capable of knocking down shots. You don't necessarily fear them anymore. I mean, Danny Green was always up and down, but
so streaky,
very streaky. But if Bane can come in and give the Lakers like a 40% 3-point shooter, it makes them tough. Same with Milwaukee. Same with, like I said, Toronto, Boston, all of those teams that are in that range. I think that he's in a good situation. I mean, the only team that's in that range that aren't like, contenders in a sense are Oklahoma City at 25 and the Knicks at 27. But, from 22 down to 23, whether it's Denver, Utah, Milwaukee, Boston, Lakers, Raptors, they could all use him.
Yeah. And honestly, he's a guy that if his play style, if he is really good in the pros, every team can use that kind of guy, right? And like a few teams that really don't need 3-point shooting and some perimeter defense.
Yep, I agree. All right, down to the last 3. This is a guy who I agree with you around his range. Came into the season as, some thought he may have been the top point guard.
Yeah.
And I'm excluding Melo because most people didn't have Melo at this time last year as the number 1 point guard in the class. But, I think there was a lot of expectations for Nico Mannion to be a lottery pick. And so here he is down at number 28. So in your opinion, why did he fall so far?
If I had to guess, at least I know it made him fall farther for me because when you just watch him play, he's great basketball player. I wonder what his ceiling is at the next level. I think that's probably the biggest questions because I think he'll be a good 3-point shooter. He 80% free throw shooter, mid 30s I think for 3-point. So like he has that. He's skilled. He's doesn't have good length, not great size. I wonder how good he can be. Um, I wrote down like a Jeff Teague type. And that's if he gets his peak. I just wonder though, is he going to be good enough where you want to just give him the ball and tell him to run an offense, or at least just go to work with the ball, because that's kind of what he needs to do. I think. I could be wrong. He could become an off-ball guy too, but I just wonder if, I mean, with his size, his lack of size there, I should say, his lack of length. I just wonder, is he really a guy in the league who you're going to put out there for big minutes in a game, despite the fact that he's very skilled. He has a good jump shot. He's a good player. I just wonder, like, do you want him out there for more than like 15, 20 minutes a game, especially in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, but even if he does have a career comparable to Jeff Teague, if I'm not, was Teague an All-Star in
Yeah.
2015?
The year the four Hawks made it, he was one of
Yeah,
them.
that would be a good value pick so
Oh,
late.
yeah.
So that's why I was wondering, Jeff Teague or Marcus Teague? Even though you said
No,
Jeff.
yeah. Well, Teague is like, if he peaks out, I could
Yeah.
see Jeff Teague, but I wonder if like he can ever get any farther than that, and likely if he'll even get to that. So yeah.
Yeah, he didn't have the year that I expected. I think he kind of struggled a little bit as far as like creating his own shot. The shooting numbers definitely were down. So now like for him, now you have to wonder. So all right, let's say he's in this range, 25 on down. If he goes to the Thunderish, then if Chris Paul is gone, then he has a chance of making being able to get rotation minutes. If he goes to Boston, depending on what they do, they have 3 picks. If they keep him, can he beat out Wanamaker? Can he beat out Waters?
Probably.
You think he can beat out those guys
I
in a fair competition, open? I mean, because Boston is. I mean, obviously they're in the Eastern Conference Finals, so. And point guard is such an important position, backup point. But if you think in a fair competition, can he beat out Brad Wanamaker and Tremont Waters?
mean, it's tough because, like you said before, about just roll the ball out and play. I mean, with that, as far as that, he's just so skilled, and like he's just a talented player. Um, Wanamaker is tough because, I mean, I'm not a huge Wanamaker guy, but Wanamaker's been good, and it's just like it's hard to be good in the NBA in the playoffs. So I don't know if like he can come to the team and take those minutes. I'm not a huge Waters guy. I think he probably could beat out Waters because I think he's going to come in and be a good, solid offensive player. I don't really have concerns about if he'll have a spot in the league at all. I think on day one, I mean, he's not that he's that old, but I think on day one he's NBA ready as far as just like he's going to score and he's going to be, a ball handler who you can throw out there for some minutes. So I think he'll make a roster, no matter what. I think he'll be solid. I really wonder if even like at whatever his best version is, if you want him to play high minutes. So like I think it's not a bad thing. I think he's just a late round guy. I think he's a good role guy. But I don't see him. A lot of people love him for his talent, but I just can't see him really getting to a point where you want him being a staple of a team.
All right. Which transition on to another guard that had a similar expectations coming into his freshman year, and you have him at 29. I think I've only seen one other mock or board have him this low. Why are you so low on Cole Anthony?
I kind of feel not in the exact same way. I feel similar to Nico in that I think Cole Anthony also has a spot in the league. They're not the same player or anything, but he has a role. I just wonder at Cole Anthony's best, is he someone you want running the point, or whether he's a 1 or a 2? Is he someone you want in big minutes? I don't know. I mean, he doesn't have great length, not great size. His field goal percentage was pretty bad. I know you mentioned the last one that you think that a lot of that was the spacing of UNC's offense. So that's kind of tough because in college offenses, it's hard to evaluate that compared to the NBA offense. So it's tough. He took a lot of threes per game. He had hit him at a solid rate, 35%, 75% free throw. So he should be a good shooter. I think he'll be a good scorer. I don't know if he has necessarily the playmaking and just the overall ability to run an offense. So I don't know if you want him being like your starting point guard or even necessarily your backup point guard. And then I also wonder, does he have the scoring to be an off-ball guard in big minutes or just the ability? I mean, he has a lot of talent, so probably.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of will he get there, because I don't know if I love the idea of him being your point guard running an offense.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sold on him being like your point guard. I do think that he has the mentality as far as like how aggressive he is as a scorer to be like an engine, to be your lead guard. I think he was a very, very good off the ball shooter. He didn't have a lot of opportunities this year, but on catch and shoot opportunities, he's a knockdown shooter, which gives me hope that he can play like early in his career. I think that he can play as a six man to where, let's say he goes to a team like Washington, Wall and Bill are going to start together, but then I think you can put him in the backcourt with either one of those guys when they sub, because you can still run pick and rolls for Bill, and I think Anthony is a good enough shooter off the ball where he can knock down shots. I love his mentality. I do think that he is too score first. I see some Austin Rivers in his game in a sense, to where he could end up being like a six-man combo type as opposed to a starter. I mean, Austin Rivers was I know he was a lottery pick. He may have been a top 10 pick. And
top 10.
He couldn't, he didn't find a role in New Orleans, and then Boston had him for no time at all. Then they sent him to the Clippers, and then he kind of found his niche with the Clippers as a guy that can come in and score points in the second unit. So I do see, like I said, I see some Austin Rivers in this game, but I think that he can knock down shots. I think he's a better shooter than Austin Rivers. And I think that his numbers were down at Carolina because he just didn't have good teammates, which sometimes I don't feel sorry for guys, especially if you were like a McDonald's All-American, because in college you pick your teammates. You can look at the roster and say, okay, this is who they have coming back. All right, this person okay, you know what? I'm going to go to this school. And so in that case, I don't necessarily feel sorry for guys.
Yeah.
Unless it's like injuries that kind of depleted the team. But that North Carolina team, he knew what was there when he chose to go there.
30% usage. He had a lot of burden on him.
He did. I'm guessing he thought like, okay, well, if I have a similar year to Kobe White, then I'll be, top 5 pick. Well, Kobe White had Cam Johnson. So this team doesn't have Cam Johnson, but I think that his field goal percentage at the rim was concerning, but he had no floor spacing, so he was driving into a congested lane. So I think that he'll be a better NBA player than he showed at Carolina. But another thing that concerns me is Chris Brickley has been posting these videos of him playing one-on-one with Kevin Porter, and he's, at least from the looks of the videos, he's getting destroyed.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, now Kevin Porter Jr. is a tough matchup. He's got a lot of game. And I've even posed the question, what is the difference between Kevin Porter Jr. and Anthony Edwards? And you can't convince me there's that much of a difference.
Okay.
Just, intel. I just think Anthony Edwards has a better reputation coming in. If Kevin Porter Jr. came back to school this year, he would have been a number 1 pick, in my opinion. He should have been, talent-wise alone, I think he should have been a lottery pick last year. And he had he played well in the second half of the year when he got an opportunity in Cleveland. But yeah, I mean, I like Cole Anthony. I think that if I'm Phoenix or New Orleans in the lottery, I think I would take a shot at him. Especially if they already have a point guard. If he can learn from Wall, he can learn from Rubio, or even if he goes to New Orleans and he can learn from Drew Holiday about, the nuances of being a point guard and getting teammates involved, I think he could be a good pick.
Makes sense.
All right, the last one. This is the biggest wild card of the draft. Now, this is the lowest I've seen him. I've seen him as high as 14. I have him in the 16, 17 range. Aleksej Pokusevski. I just call him AP.
Yeah, he's a wild card. I struggled to even have like a comp for him.
There isn't one.
I mean, I wrote yeah, I wrote Paul Joe Ingles, and yeah, I don't even like know how that works. So that's the thing with him. He's a wild
card. That's not a bad comparison.
I don't know. I have him. I had to put him in the first round because he's just like, it's like tantalizing. I mean, 7 feet, 7'4" wingspan, I think. I mean, he's so thin. That's one thing. He'll have to bulk up. He's young though. He's like 19ish, I think.
No, he's younger. He might be younger than that. I think he's the youngest player since they took away high schoolers. Like, I think he just barely made the minimum, I guess, whatever the deadline is for age you have to be. I don't know how it is, the way to word it, but I think that I want to say he's like either the first or second youngest player since high schoolers were eliminated from entering.
He's already 7 foot 7'3" wings. That's, yeah. I mean, he can shoot a little bit. He has a feel for the game. Like, he can play make, he can pass, he can distribute, all that. I don't know. Like, I mean, right now, if you threw him in the NBA right now, he's going to get bodied by a lot of bigger guys. The length helps. I mean, the length and the height you can recover, but he'll have to get bigger if he wants to be like a 5. But it's hard to even, because I don't know what he'll be. Like, if you tell me he's a center, I don't know how I feel about that unless he gets bigger. But, like, it's interesting, the idea that, like you said, like a skinny Jokic, a playmaking, shooting center like that could be huge. Or is he, like, more of a wing? Probably not. I can't imagine, but like, I don't know. And it's kind of hard for me to project out, but he has the talent and the tools, and you kind of got to take a shot on him at some point in the first round. So I have him a little low just because I don't know. But like, if someone, like you said, took him in like the mid first round, like closer to the lottery, it wouldn't shock me either. And I wouldn't say it's a bad pick because I don't have the intel on him like they do. So It's just, I had to put him in the first round, but I honestly can't say I know what he'll be. I just know what tools he has and the size and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned before, I've seen him live. If the season starts when they're saying December, like if it starts at Christmas, he'll be just turning 19. He doesn't turn 19 until December 26th. Wow. So I know he's the youngest player in this draft. Yeah, the skill set is there. It's tough to compare him to anyone because I think best case scenario, he's like a Jokic light at center. And I mean light by lightweight. But he's a guy that you can run your offense through. He can pass and he can shoot. I think if you can play him at the 4, he has the agility and mobility and the length to be like a guy that can defend multiple positions and get steals, shot blocker. I think that it's just like he's like this creative player used to create on NBA Live or NBA 2K. As far as like you make a 7-footer with guard skills that can shoot, he has all that. It's just a matter of him like putting it together. One of the reasons I think that he'll go a lot higher is because there's this guy that was also playing in Greece that was 7 foot that could dribble.
I was thinking about him.
Run the floor, and he ended up getting drafted mid-first round. He's turned into a 2-time MVP. And so I think teams are going to be scared of missing out on the next Giannis.
No, that's a lot of – he's lucky because the fact that he's such an unknown, I think a lot of teams are just going to – what they do know, they're going to say we can't risk letting him slip because he just has so much that you like. He'll be really interesting. I wonder – does he go just depends on who he gets drafted by, but does he just go to the G League? Is he coming over next season? Like I actually don't know that, but I wonder because it'll be interesting to watch his development. It'll be interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean this year's tricky because I haven't heard he's in the States working out. I mean the 2 guys that I've heard are Avdija and Teo Meladon. They're working out in Atlanta right now. But like Bomero is playing for Barcelona. I haven't seen anything of where AP is at. I mean, imagine if he's still in Greece, like the rest of the guys in the draft that were in Europe, they're back playing with their teams. And so I talked to Henry Drell, who's projected like second round on some drafts, and he said that his team will allow him to come over. So if he gets drafted, in November and the season starts in December, his team understands that when they sign him, his goal is to go to the NBA, so they'll let him come over. While I think for other guys, I mean, I don't know if he's going to play a lot for Olympiacos anyway. I just can't imagine him earning a lot of minutes on that team. I know Balmero was supposed to play. He's playing rotation minutes for Barcelona. So I don't know. I mean, we're in a situation where we've never seen anything like this before. So there is a chance the team could draft him this year. And depending on his contract situation, he can't come over and play until 21, 22. Or, now if a team has a situation where they understand that, okay, well, he got drafted and the NBA season is supposed to start in December or whatever, which I kind of find it hard to believe, because if the draft is pushed back to the 18th, I can't imagine them starting.
Today, Silver said that the best case scenario was probably 2021, so after January 1st. So
that wow, that's even tough, because I can't even imagine the NBA giving up Christmas.
I was thinking that today when I saw that. I was like, that's going to be sad for me on Christmas.
Yeah, so this is, it's a crazy situation, but yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what to expect. Especially if I think in his case, nobody probably expects him to contribute right away anyway. So, if they draft him as high as 14 or 15, if he stays over in Olympiacos for a year, I think that wouldn't be a shocker either. So, who knows?
I can't wait to see what position he plays. I'm very interested in that. I wrote a taller Tony Kukoc too, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, I guess Kukoc was 6'11", so give or take an inch. He's fluid. Ooh, Tony was nice. Tony's one of those guys where you kind of forget how good he was, because he was overshadowed by playing with Mike and Pippen. But yeah, he's the big wild card,
Yeah.
All right, well, man, I appreciate it. We did a little more than an hour and 15, which it's good talking basketball. It can go on forever. Maybe one day I'll get to Joe Rogan status where I have 5-hour podcasts and people still listen, and I'll get
basketball for 5 hours.
Yeah, dude gets like 3 to 4 million people to listen to 5-hour podcasts, and he's got like $197 million deal from Spotify. So maybe one day I'll get to that point, but I'm not there yet. But once again, I thank you for coming on. And where can they find you? I know you have your own website. Can you, plug in your website, or where can people find you and your work at?
You can go to tailgatetake.com. On Twitter, it's at tailgate_take. And on Facebook, it's at tailgatetake.
All right. Tailgatetake.com if you want to hear more of his takes, whether you agree with them or not. I just think it's kind of interesting, because he's on that hill. And, it's just, and like I said, I've said it multiple times, it's always good to find someone who thinks differently and outside the box. And especially in a situation like an NBA draft and a mock draft, we don't know, we don't know. Only, I think the best way to determine if a person is right or not is you got to wait until that first rookie contract is over. When you can determine if
absolutely.
The guy is right.
Takes
so,
a few years.
Yep. So cool. All right. Well, this is Raphael with NBA Draft Junkies. I got my guy Derek from tailgatetake.com. And thanks for tuning in. And we are out.